Okay, let's go through this really quick. What I want you to picture here, we have a transition much like on your house. A transition is just where one pitch changes to another. And forgive me. All right, before we get started, let me just explain. I'm going to run through terms. I'm going to explain everything on the assumption you don't know anything. And if you do, please forgive me. I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible so maybe it can help somebody else later on down the road. I want you to pretend that this surface here is your metal awning that you built. I want you to pretend that this surface over here is the house where the shingles are now. This change in pitch is called the transition. I'm going to grab a couple of shingles and I'll show you essentially what you have going on is start this up a little bit. So let's just pretend that your house, I'm going to put a couple nails in here because this is all going to come back out, but I want to show you what you're going to need to do, how to tie this in. Okay. All right, so here's your step one. And I want you to, and again, I wish I had a metal roof to work with to show you, but it's okay. Now, on your roof, you have, I want you to pretend that this bundle is the top edge of that awning. And it looks to me like you have something that's probably about the thickness of this bundle where you have some kind of a blockage or a ski jump. It's actually up closer to the transition, but I mean, yeah, it looks like about a foot to between 12 and 14 inches gap you have there where maybe you have ice and water shield already, but you have something forming a wall at the top like this. The first thing you need to do is you need to come over to those shingles that are off to the side. I want you to take that rake metal off, okay? Then you have those shingles that are alongside of it. And you've got this open area here that we've got to block in. I want you to apply new step flashing. If there's a nail at the end of the shingle here, I want you to just go under and gently remove it. You're going to slide your step flashing under and up against your new awning, okay? Push it up until you can't see that step flash anymore. There'll be a, there's a shingle above it. Just gently lift that. Stay away from in the corner. Bring it out to the edge of the metal. So if this is just nail, if this were sitting like this, nail out toward this edge. Put a nail through the shingle and the step flashing at the same time. Don't lift this up and nail under here. Just put here because when we put the next one on, that nail that's in here, this is going to cover it, okay? That way you never have to worry about any exposed nails in this area. Now, you'll do that one. Then you'll do the next one. And you're going to work this up. Now these step flashing, you see how this sticks above this plane? What you're going to do is just, once those, let them stick up, fold those over, okay? Fold them over like this. And go all the way up into here, and you'll have to just trim these to length. Get to this next one where it's like this. Trim down the size. Still fold it over. Close that off, okay? Now, once that's closed off, you need to go up here where the shingles in the house are. I'm gonna if it was me doing your house, the minimum I would pull out is 2 more courses of shingles. You may want to do 3. Now you need to be careful because the shingles on your roof are in pretty rough shape. But this is all you got to do. Get you a flat bar or a cat's paw if you have one. Now you're going to have to be gentle. Hopefully those shingles will come apart for you. If you've got a hatchet, use it. If they're really stuck together, I've seen guys take one of the multi-tools, where you put the flat blade on it, just kind of oscillates. You can get on here and gently cut that seal strip. Don't cut through the shingle below. Be real careful. Well, you can cut through this shingle below, but you want to avoid that, okay? Just ignore what I just said there. And you don't want to tear up the shingle above. So if we were going to pull out these 2 courses of shingles, you need to go 1, 2, then you need to go the shingle above it. So this one up here. So you're going to want to go up to the 4th shingle then and work this loose, okay? Then work this row loose so they're not adhered anymore. Then you're going to go up under here and you cut them up with your toolbar, nail, cat's bar knot. Hit the nail. Just kind of wiggle it. Just jiggle it loose. You can snag it down, and then you can grab it nice and easy. And just, you don't want to tear that shingle up. So just go along. You're going to need to get every nail. Find it, wiggle, pull. Come up, find it, pull. Then these next rows, you can just yank them. Okay? Now leave these old nails in, but clean out the shingle that's underneath the nail head. The little bits of it. Clean that out. Knock them down flush. That in there and just twist. It'll clean all that crap out from under the nail head. Knock that down. Then I want you to take a caulking, and if you just have regular tar, you can use that. But I want you to go under here. I want you to find those holes from the nails we pulled out. Aim it into the hole. Try to squirt some caulking into that, and then over it. Just seal those holes up. You'd probably be fine if you didn't, but this is just good practice, okay? Now that that's done, what I want you to do next, because this big space here is so big, because you need to, this plane here, you already have a counter flash on there. You have a cap at the top of your awning. Leave that alone. We're not going to touch it. We're not going to replace it. But we want to maintain that same plane. So if this was a level or a straight edge, you can see it's actually going to plane out up here. We have this big open area. You might want to put a 2x4 or something in here just to kind of give it a little support, but it's not that important as long as nobody's going to be walking around in your house. I don't have a full-size piece of transition metal, so I'm just going to bend out a piece of step flashing. Just imagine this is bigger. Now keep in mind, the most desirable way for you to do this would be to go and find a sheet metal shop, maybe even place you got your metal roofing from, have them make you a custom piece of transition metal. If the bottom of this bundle is the bottom edge of your flashing that's already on there, measure from there. And you can see with a tape measure, when this finally planes out up here, that's about 22 inches, okay? So you're gonna need a piece that'll at least, if you stop a little bit short, you'll probably be fine, okay? I'm just trying to give you, if it was me in the way, and I was doing it. So let's say that here is 22 inches. Then, I'd really like to see you go, if you're in snow country, try to go a little bit farther, but you might want to at least go 12 inches up from there. So if this, from this bend here, so if from this bend right here, if this distance was 22 inches and this is the part that's going to go up the roof under the shingles, that's roughly the profile of what your transition metal is going to look like. And when you pick it up, also be real careful with it, because even though it's going to be a heavy gauge steel, it's going to be real floppy and easy to bend. I'd like you to see you go up farther up the roof with this, at least a foot. If you can go a little bit farther, cool, but at least a foot. So that's going to come in and plane out, you know, wherever it is. So the crease is going to sit where we determined this was going to plane out at, okay? So that this is a flat, smooth area. So that's why you have that gap under here, and why you're going to trim these step flashing and angle them so that it completely encloses this area in here off, okay? Now, you're going to put that on. Now, over here on the side, where those other shingles are, don't bring this flush. I want you to bring it past 3 to 4 inches, okay? It's gonna look a little bit goofy, but what we wanna do is let water come onto this and then shed out. Oh, before you install this, once you have all this done, put your rake metal back on, okay? So this will go on top of the rake metal. Then what I also recommend you do is just take your snips once this is on here, and I like to just kind of cut a rounded profile like this so that this is a round edge, kind of like an ogie cut, okay? That way you don't have a sharp edge or a sharp point for anyone to get hurt on. If you don't want to do that, then just bend the corner in, okay? Now, you're gonna put that on, and it's actually gonna come up to about here. Camera. Make sure my camera's following. There it is. Okay. So where this ends up here, the top edge of the metal, is where I want you to put. Just put nails in the top 1 inch. What's this stupid camera doing? Over here. Over here. Okay, I'm gonna fix this. It's not following right. When it's on here, once you get it in place, wherever it is, you're going to nail the top edge. I have a nail here. Yeah. So what I mean by that is, if this was a 15 inches from that bend up, you'd go, when I say the top, it's going to be up at the top. If you've got some flathead or panhead screws, you could use those too, but a nail will be fine for what we need to do for your house, okay? We'll nail it in. And now it's on. Your next step is going to be to take a roll of ice and water shield, and you're going to trim it to length, whatever width you need, so that it'll go up, because it won't be able to go past this nail line up here on this shingle. And ideally, what I'd like to see you do is leave about 1 to 2 inches between the bend and where you're going to line that ice and water shield up, that much exposed. You're going to put that in over top of this. Now the other thing to remember is you're probably going to need 2 pieces of that metal. So when you put it on, one's going to lap over the other. You want about 6 inches of overlap. And make sure you run a couple beads of good sealant over these, okay? And that'll get you all the way across. 6 inches overlap minimum. Now, so you put your new ice and water shield on, and doggone it, I didn't dry this house in, and I don't have anything left. We don't have any left around here to do it. Let's pretend, though, that the bottom edge of this paper is the ice and water shield. Let me just seal that nail hole right now on back here. Slide that in. That's the bottom edge. You're going to see about this much. Pull the liner, let it adhere. Now that you're finished with that, what you're going to do is measure down from the bottom edge of this shingle. If you took 2 courses out, 11 1/4 inches. Now hopefully that falls, as in this case it does, below where you put that ice and water shield. If that happens, hallelujah, we're ready to rock and roll. Make your mark at one end, go down to the other end, 11 1/4, make your mark. I want you to snap a line there. Get a starter shingle. If you don't have any, you don't really need to buy starters, but you do need something to function as. And so what you do is, line the bottom edge of this shingle up. Now here's what you need to remember too. If I put this shingle here, we'd leak. So go 6 inches, 6 inches more, and if this was going to be the starter, I'd go 6 inches more. So this first shingle's 18 inches over. If this was my starter, and if you don't have starters, just use another shingle. It'll work just fine for now, okay? 18 inches over from here if you took 2 courses out. Put the bottom edge on that line you chalk. Put the next one 6 inches over here. Now I know normally on a starter we want to nail low. I prefer not to have nails low down when I have a transition metal. It's my personal preference. Some other roofers will argue with me about it. But nail that starter up a little bit higher. It's not going anywhere. It'll be fine, okay? Then nail your shingle in. Then your next shingle, if you chalk that line at 11 1/4, it will fit perfectly right in here in line with these others. Now, here's the only thing. If 11 1/4 down happens to be, say, up here where you'd still see some of that ice and water shield, no problem. What I want you to do then, before you chalk that line, is put your first shingle on. That would be your, okay, you need a starter again, like I said, but you'll line it up where it's covering to where none of that ice and water is exposed. Put that on, the starter and the first shingle, then measure down 11 1/4 inches, snap your line, and lay this shingle right along the line. Just make sure from every sequential shingle over, you have at least 6 inches. The width of your hand is just a good gauge, good eyeball gauge. If I put my hand here and I was going to nail in this shingle and the nail will go through my hand, it's too close, you need to move it over. Then what you want to do then when you nail this back together, don't forget, when you get this under here, okay, you're going to lift. This is what we call a keyway. Manufacturer specs will tell you there cannot be a nail within 2 inches of this area. So this whole zone, within 2 inches here, no nails. Because a little bit of water will, again, if you know this, I'm sorry, I don't know what you know and know, but a little bit of water will come in this joint, and if there's a nail within 2, and really, rule of thumb is I prefer to be a lot farther than 2 inches, but the specs will tell you, most manufacturers say 2 inches. I say at least, again, hands width. Hands width is always a good rule of thumb. So make sure you have your nail in the end. Your next nail will be hands width over, and you'll be fine. Now, when you get up here to the old shingles again, so if these two are the old shingles, when you get there, just be very gentle when you lift it. You can turn your hatchet in like this, and you can put a nail, just be careful not to bust the shingle above, okay? And in this one, you have to do the same thing and nail it there. Now, once those nails are in, take your handy dandy caulking gun, lift up that shingle, and just put a bead of caulk about 4 to 5 inches long. Go a little bit farther, another one. We're going to hand seal this down because they're not going to want to glue back together again, bro. And you're going to want to do it under this shingle and this shingle, these old shingles underneath them. You want to hand seal them. If you do that, you'll be able to fix your problem. The only way you can do it any cheaper, but I don't think you're going to get a piece of it wide enough, is if it's too much money to get a piece of custom-made transition metal. Try to find you some valley tin in a roll, but you need a pretty, I mean, you could get away with covering that transition metal that's on there with a couple of inches, but if you do that, I'd want to seal the heck out of that edge where the two pieces of metal meet. If you could get down to the bottom, all the better. And you just won't have a bend and it'll roll, and other than that, you follow the same principles. But I really would advise, especially if you use the valley tin, put a piece of wood in here. You don't even have to really maybe nail it too much. Just get it in so it stays there and it's just a little more support. I might even consider doing 2 pieces. Oh, I had a second piece of, well, I don't have a second. I brought one up, but if you could put one in, maybe get a 2x3 instead of a 2x4. Set one like this, set another one like this. And that'll just give you a little support in there if you get snow and stuff like that. That'll solve your problem, short of tearing everything down and starting over again. The big key is make sure you seal off this end with step flashing. Life will go on. It's not the end of the world. Hope that helps. And if you have any more questions, just drop me a line and I'll do my best to make you something better. I do have a couple metal roofs coming up that have transitions into shingles, and I'll make a better, more thorough video when I do those in a couple weeks. But this should get you through. And if something doesn't make sense, again, I'm sorry I don't have the right props, but this should get you through. Happy roofing.